Hey guys, we are back with another trip recap, this time going over a hot yellowfin bite.
Yeah, we had some really fun fishing on this trip. A lot of good fly line action. You can see boils up on the surface there. A bunch of fish hanging at a time. Really good quality on this yellowfin as well, like 20 to 40 pound fish. So super fun fights on some lighter line for some of these guys, and just overall a great time.
Looks like we have somebody who's fighting a fish down underneath the boat, somebody fighting someone a fish up on the surface, and some chaos down here at the stern. So yeah, and looks like the weather is beautiful too. Looks like a great trip.
Yeah, beautiful weather. We were pretty close to locals, so you can see a few skiffs piling in, other boats here as well. We were lucky to get on a really great school that responded to our bait really well, coiled up in the chum line, and just charged the corner. And a lot of guys were getting bit right in the corner as soon as they were able to cast a bait out away from the boat, and it was game on.
So what pound test was the ticket?
I'd say 30 was our happy medium. Some guys were using 25-pound tests, a little bit lighter line with smaller hooks, and some guys were able to use 40-pound tests and get bit. And that just kind of depends on your skill level, I guess, on being able to get a bait away from the boat. It's a little bit easier to cast 25, 20-pound tests. The lighter you go, it's easier to cast, right? And the bait is going to swim a little bit easier because it has less restriction when it's pulling. Same with hook size. But if you're able to cast away 40 pound and get a bite on 40 pound, obviously you're going to have a much easier fight, especially against good grade tuna like this. You can see that Steven the angler here was struggling a little bit to get it up all the way to gaff there for Josh. Like every time he was about to swing, the head went back down. And that'll happen, and it'll extend the fight on that light line if you're not able to hook it on a little bit heavier test.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it takes patience of the deckhand, right, to, make sure that that fish comes all the way up to the surface. But at the same time, when you're expecting it to come up a little bit hot, it's just that's why it's really important. Just you're always working together. The crew's working with you. You are working with the crew. You're a team to land that fish at the end of the day.
Yeah, you can see another boil up off the bow there. This was a long drift for us, and they were just splashing around the whole time. And it never gets old seeing a yellowfin come up and smash a sardine and knock it into the air and do a big old boil up on the surface.
And the elephant haven't shown up in like huge volumes really this season. So could talk a little bit about what their behavior's been like.
Yeah, we haven't seen too much of it yet. This is still what I would consider early season yellowfin. Those of you that follow the channel, you saw that we had a good bite on yellowfin earlier in the year up at San Clemente Island, and it was about this grade of fish as well. This is a really nice grade, this bigger yellowfin, and this is typically what you'll see the early season yellowfin. And as summer heads on and fall kind of rolls in, typically, we get lucky to see those smaller, schooly yellowfin on kelp patties. The last couple of years, we haven't seen too much of that. Hopefully, with this El Nino that's rolling in and changing weather patterns, we'll see that because it really helps give a big boon to the overnight boats and full day boats. As it's local waters and kelp patties are easy to target, and a little bit smaller fish is easier for the less experienced anglers to land that are on the shorter trips.
And what's kind of their preference for water temp? Like, what are their preference for conditions?
Well, on this trip in particular, we were up to like 73-degree water. Once you get up in that 70-degree range, you can definitely see yellowfin, no doubt. This year, we started catching bluefin. On our first trip, I think we had like 61 or 62-degree water. So that bluefin, you can see it in a range of water. We see it anywhere from 60 to mid 70s. The yellowfin typically likes a little bit warmer, more tropical water, and that's why we'll see it later in the summer or earlier in the fall, typically once the warm water kind of pushes up. And with this El Nino that we have, that big water mass pushes up, and we'll see a lot of pelagics move up from down south, including yellowfin.
And it kind of makes sense because I feel like when you're talking about patty hopping, right? It's a lot of those pelagics, right? Like the Dorado or on patties and yellowfin, and that's just such a crazy fun bite, not knowing what you're gonna get.
Yeah, a few years back when we had like really big El Ninos that really affected our water, It'd be typical to pull up to a kelp and you could hit a grand slam on one kelp where you could catch yellowtail, dorado, yellowfin, and bluefin. Maybe a big eye. Maybe there's wahoo around. That was a few years back when water temperatures were like at record highs for us, and all of a sudden somebody would get chewed off by a wahoo while they were trying to catch a yellowfin on a kelp patty.
You can see this nice, beautiful weather here, and this guy's using a little bit of a lighter setup, kind of like a bass rod um, looking setup here, and he's doing a great job of bringing it up to the surface. Keegan's stretching as much as he can. You can see that it's really important. The angler does a good job of lifting, but he kind of stops winding, and so I think remembering to do both is super important because again, you really want to position the fish as best as possible for the deckhand.
Yeah, you can see his thumb was on the spool a little bit there. These guys are bass fishermen, so that's typical, right, of bass fishing. You see that a lot. It's not something I recommend on most tuna trips. He did a good job of when the fish tried to run, he removed his thumb. But if you squeeze a little bit too hard and lift a little bit too hard, it's very easy to break off a fish on light line. And that I think that's like a Tranks 300 with like 25-pound test. So that's easy to break off.
This guy up here at the bow using a little bit of a longer rod to sort of get that fish up to color here. Doing a great job of positioning up on the bow, leveraging the rod on his leg, and laying it nice and flat out for Keegan to stick it with the gaff.
Yeah, beautiful gaff shot on another good grade yellowfin you see coming up and over. Um, just constant action and long drifts. Like we said, it was typical for us to have like 15 fish going at a time. These guys really did a great job of working together and communicating, going over and under, like you can see right here, not casting a bait right next to a fish. And just overall, they were a team. And that's how it works when you're on a sport boat with each other. Everybody has to kind of be a team and remember that everybody has as much right to the rail as everyone else on the trip. And the fish has the priority no matter what. You try to get out of the way and make sure that you don't tangle somebody that has a fish on. And if everybody works together, it really works well.
Yeah, some guys will be upset that their line's cut, or and obviously we want to try to avoid that as much as possible. But if you're the person with that fish, you're gonna want to be the priority too. So that's how I always kind of think of it. It's like once your turn comes up, the deckhands and the crew is gonna do everything to make sure that you can land your fish as efficiently as possible.
Yeah, you can see another nice yellowfin coming over on a beautiful headshot by Alex. I'd say the crew was pretty on their game here, hitting these guys in the head and getting the fish up and over the rail. You can see that one's probably close to like a 40-pound fish, I would say, which is a tough fight, and it's going to take a little bit on light line, fly line setups. If you're using 25, 30-pound tests, even up to 40-pound tests, these fish fight hard, and most of these guys are using single speeds. Just because for fly line, that's kind of an easier setup to cast a bait out, and it's going to swim a little bit more naturally. And for any of you guys interested in a fly line setup, you can check out our fly line setup video and get a few hints and tips from us.